Good morning, everyone. It's Joker, and today we are back with another slime video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the new Festive Memories Maribel, the latest unit to come out for this very confusing Christmas team. So she's water, she's physical, she uses a hammer, so I pulled the hammer off of the World of Fantasy Millum. On Festive Memories, Schemer and Stern of Spirit. Schemer does not yet have an actual leader. Stern of Spirit is the Overlord team, so I mean, I don't really see her being used there, but you can certainly try. She is a support alt AoE water for 150% extra weakness strike to Festive Memories, as I think most people are aware, and also feel themselves not big fans of this. Just, you know, taking our damage down from 600% EX to 150 and you get 50% weakness strike for one force, like that's not a good trade-off. Her first skill, 120% EX alt damage, unrestricted, as long as you have an EX alt. So that requires you to be an EX character and to have a full 2 alt bars. But otherwise, you can use this buff. And then, removes all barrier stacks from all allies with at least one barrier stack or more removed from each to activate. So, increases weakness strike for all allies, including rearguard, by 50% for one turn, and increases by 10% per barrier stack removed for a max total of 150%. So you are starting with 50, and you need to remove 10 stacks to get to the 150% maximum power meter right here. Now we're going to test and see exactly what, with at least one barrier stack or more removed from each to activate. So does this mean that all 3 frontline characters have to have a barrier up? It won't work if it's just one unit like Maribel, and will that activate? We're going to science that out today, because the way I did it in my live stream, it worked, and we were up to like 130%, but everyone had a barrier up, so definitely have to test that. Her second skill changes 2 not blue orbs to blues. So 2 greens, 2 oranges, 1 green, 1 orange, doesn't really matter the combination. All of them are getting changed to blues, or at least 2 of them are getting changed to blues. And then she applies 1 stack of a barrier to only Festive Memories allies. So this, I think, is like the one thing in her kit that really could have been generic as well, and she would have actually been pretty good. If you just gave a barrier to literally everybody, this skill would be so much better. But limiting it to a Festive Memories team that only ever gets buffed once a year on Christmas means that after this meta is over, you're not going to really use these units that much. And you're not going to really benefit from this barrier stack. You can still benefit from the orb change, but not this, because it's only going to be for herself. And we don't get random Christmas units in like March of 2025. So that, I think, is the one like super huge downside to her, alongside her trait. So her Valor trait, seals defense skills, not super duper useful. Her actual trait, 6 combo of blues, lowers the enemy attack. So you definitely don't need dupes in her at all. Trait's kind of meh. But let's go ahead and start sciencing out this skill right here. Alright. First off, we're going to go into EX2 of their beatdown battle using the Festive Memories team. So, Albus, Ritus, Momiji, Maribel, Christmas Shizu, and Christmas Velzard. Christmas Velzard being our quote-unquote nuking character. She is skill fused as well, so she's got the extra physical attack and then the alt resist or alt damage 100% now. This makes her much more efficient at nuking than what she was previously, because she only gave herself like 40% alt. So the problem with this team is that, one, we don't have an alt swapper, which we could bring one, but also we have 2 90-point skill units in Maribel and Momiji, and Albus caps out at 150. So we can't use them together on the nuke turn. Like, the final unit, which is going to be a Violet, we know this from the data mine. Like, that Violet needs to have that Prosper Rimuru skill where after like 8 turns or something, you give yourself an extra 150 or 200 skill points in order to actually use the other skills of this team. Otherwise, it's going to ask you to nuke like onesie twosies, like one time you use Momiji's buff, and then the other time you use Maribel's buff, and it's just, it's not very fun to do that on a stacking charge team where you're meant to use all of your skills at once. But turn 1, we could either use Ritas, who would lower the weakness resistance of the enemy, or we could use Maribel, and she would just change 2 non-blue orbs, which includes 2 greens, and it would give us a stack of the barrier. So let's go ahead and let's bring you in, and because this is Maribel's showcase, we will actually use Maribel's skill. We don't have to worry about Maribel not being sealed because she doesn't have a attack seal. Momiji does, so I do want to leave her in. So we'll go ahead and change this. We'll apply the barrier. Okay, fine. And then we'll bring Christmas Shizu in. She's not going to have the barrier. Not a big deal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And we'll send this. So we're doing decent damage here because we're all Festive Memories. We've got 2 fire units. And that is a hand that I can't really work with, because I can't change 3 orbs that are random colors. What I can do is I could steal some orbs. So let's do that instead. So boom. All right, now we got a full hand of Velzard. Let's do, you know what? Let's just run it like this. We don't really need the barriers yet. We can keep them cheap. So we'll use Albus. Sure, we'll watch Albus bend over. Why not? But until we get that Prosper Rimuru skill, this team is severely handicapped because you cannot store the 2 buffs from Momiji and Maribel because they're debuffs or they're orb buffs, and you can't hold those for extra turns. You could hold part of it, like you could hold the Pierce Rate from Momiji, you could hold the Weakness Strike from Maribel, like, yeah, I guess. But it's not going to really work that well for you because the other half, the really impactful half of the skill, is going to disappear after 1 turn, regardless of what happens. And you don't really want that. So here, we're on turn 2. We've already done quite a bit of damage because this is only EX2. Maybe I should have gone to Inferno. But here, we don't have an alt swapper. Not that we need one, because we can just send her away. She doesn't need an EX alt. So let's bring in Ritas. And then orb change with her. Boom. And then because Momiji can change 2 orbs of any color, we could then bring her in, and we could change these 2 orbs right here. And what a barrier stack, and then blue. Awesome. So we get extra barriers. And now I'm going to... Okay, we gotta turn this off. We're going to cut, and I want to see some science really fast. Alright, so for science, we have to figure out how exactly Maribel's skill works. Removes all barrier stacks from all allies, with at least 1 barrier stack or more removed from each to activate. So each character has to have a barrier in order for this to activate? Let's find out. Let's do 1 Ritas barrier. Okay, cool. And then we will bring in Velzard for Momiji, and we will use the buff skill. Is this going to give us 50% weakness strike, or is it not? So it's going to not. Okay, so everyone up front has to have a barrier. You can't have 1 barrier, you can't have 2 barriers, it has to be 3 barriers removed. Which means that this skill is always going to be at least 80%? I don't know, let's come back and try it again. Okay, so next turn, we will apply a barrier with Albus, so everyone will have 1 now, and then we will reuse the Maribel skill. And is this going to be a minimum 50%, or is this going to be a baseline 80? Because you get 10% per barrier removed. You have to remove 3 in order to activate this weakness strike. So let's find out. Activate. It yoinked all 3. All right, weakness strike up, and let's check out Momiji, I guess. And she's got 80% weakness strike. Okay, so kind of a weird way to word it, but everyone up front has to have a barrier, which means that you cannot use this skill, or you cannot use Maribel's barrier skill on a team that's not full of Festive Memories characters and actually get the weakness strike, because she's only going to give it to herself, and we just proved that all 3 characters need to have it. So you would have to make some kind of weird hodgepodge team that happens to have 3 Festive Memories characters in order to actually get the weakness strike buff from this skill. Otherwise, it's just 120% alt damage, or EX alt damage, and that's it. Because it can't be one character, it can't just be Maribel, it can't just be Maribel and Ritas, it has to be 3. But if you have 3, it's not actually 50%, it's actually 80% because you're removing 3 barriers at 10% per barrier. So you would need to remove 10 stacks overall, but you need to remove 3 to even get this skill. Very confusingly worded. Unnecessarily confusing, I think. Why it can't just be 3 barriers like in total? Like if Maribel has 3 barriers by herself, like why can't she just yoink those 3? I don't really know. Maybe, I mean, well, no, because it says from each character, right? From each ally. So it can't just be 2 and 1 or 3 and 0 and 0. It has to be 1, 1, 1. Oh, okay. That means that skill is very much restricted then. More restricted than I thought it would be. Because you'd have to run Albus. You'd have to actually run just Albus, realistically, because she's giving a barrier to everybody. But, like, I don't want to run Albus in every team situation, so that's not... It means she's restricted. That's just straight up what it is. Okay, we're back. We're gonna try and get the 10 stacks that we need. So we've got 6 on Velzard, 6 on Momiji, 3 on Ritas. They're gonna get hit and they're gonna get deleted, but still we can get the max skills here. The problem... Oh, damn. That was a Momiji ult. Or that was an ult I should have watched. Okay, well, the problem with this is that Velzard, as our DPS character, is not an EX unit. Therefore, she cannot participate in the EX ult buff that, that Maribel is giving. So what's the actual point of using this skill? I guess it's to hold the weakness strike. So you know what? Let's do that. Let's actually burn this turn off, and we will... so we'll use Albus here. Okay, cool. This is now 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 stacks of barrier. That is now going to be gone. So we're going to yoink that, give everyone weakness strike. Okay. And now Velzard has 150% weakness strike, which you can hold in the back, which is exactly what we're going to do. So you go away, and this is a actually god-awful hand. Thanks, game. Really appreciate that. I guess we'll be back again. Alright, but now, what we can do is we could bring Velzard back in for Maribel, and now that we still have the weakness strike, we can use this, and we can use the other buff from Momiji. Guaranteed Pierce, 130% ult resistance down. And now we can be almost at full power. I guess we can also bring in Shizu at least for the AoE resistance down and the Pierce power buff. It's not skill fused, so it's only 15% each. And we also haven't used the fire buff, but this can do damage now. 1.6. So that's 150% weakness strike. Whatever stacks with Albus we got. The Momiji debuff, the Pierce rate. I mean, we can't use the 290 point skills together because we physically don't have 180 points to use. Like, we can't. So, cool, I guess, that we can hold the weakness strike. I guess right now that's what we're going to have to do, and we're not actually going to get the EX alt buff because Velzard, as our DPS character, is not an EX alt character. Neither is Shizu. Maribel and Momiji are, but they're support alts. They don't do shit for damage. And Ritas also isn't an EX character. So in order to actually benefit from this EX alt buff, we're going to go somewhere else. Alright, so I'm not going to use her on any other team there are. I'll do that maybe for a separate video, but I'm trying to make this team work. Alright, Christmas team. And right now, you can't use both the big time skills, so we're going to bring the unit that solved that problem for the Prosper team, Rimuru. Now, it doesn't work as well as you would like, because I can't use his crit skill, because we don't have that many points. But he will at least give us 150 points after turn 8, so we can at least use both Maribel and Momiji together. And we're going to have now an EX alt character in Idol Shuna, who is on the Festive Memories team, and we can also use her own synergy buff. So this is like the best that I can do with the Festive Memories team and make all of their buffs work together. But I don't have Fire Shizu, so we're going to be missing that buff, but fine, whatever. This takes a long-ass time. I'm just going to put that out there. This is not a fun team to run. It's just not. If you're trying to maximize the weakness strike buffs by having barrier stacks and training decides to counter you 3 out of 5 hits or 6 hits every turn, like, you're not going to have barriers. It's also going to take a long-ass time because this team doesn't have a way to get alt gauge. You can't put the enamor on training because she'll cleanse it. I'm using a heal charm to keep everyone alive because we're going to be here for so very long. So I can't use like an alt rush charm either. And it's just like you're at the mercy of Orb RNG, and blues give you inherently the least amount of alt gauge, even if you send a lot of them. So we are really at the mercy. I think I have to fast forward though to find an actual clip though. Hold on. Okay, so yeah, I did have to fast forward like a third of the way through this video. Okay, so turn 2, we have good orb change, thank God. Normally I get like 4 greens and 1 orange here, if normally, but we only had to change 1 orb, and a lot of them are Shuna's, which actually works out pretty well. So we can get a jump start on getting her EX ult. It's just that what we have to do is we have to find a turn where we can have an EX ult for Shuna, use her synergy buff, send her away, and then somewhere in the next godforsaken turns, we have to have enough points to use the Rimuru magic buff. That'll give us the extra 150, and it has to be past turn 8. And we also have to keep getting full hands of blue so we can get more stacks of barrier with Albus, and we have to keep using orb changes. And we have 3 different orb changes on this team, where the Prosper team only had 2. One of which you didn't really have to use that much, because it was Rieger. You just use Lumi over and over again. But then you need to have 150 points, use the Rimuru skill, then you have 210 points right there, and then that will allow you to use both Momiji and Maribel together. It's just that when you get to that turn, are you going to have the 10 stacks of barrier that you're going to need to do in order to get the full 150% weakness strike? And that's the kicker, because we're in this fight for a long time, and she's going to remove your barrier, whether by instant damage or ults or AoE hits or 5 single target attacks. Like, it's very hard to retain 10 stacks of barrier unless you are literally using a like Redis every single turn, putting a barrier on herself and then sending her away, and then she'll just happen to have 7 or 8 on her by that weird random turn. Because we don't have to have Shuna up front to get that weakness strike. That is one nice thing, is that you can just absorb the barriers of anybody up front, and they will apply the weakness strike buff to even the backline. Very nice thing that they've introduced for the Divine General team, and they're carrying over. It does make playing around buffs a lot easier, but we do need an EX ult, so we just have to get there. So we're going to bring probably Maribel in, or Redis, one of the two. Redis is cheaper technically, but this will get us more barrier, right? We're just gonna bring everybody in. Okay, this is turn 5. This is the scary turn. We're gonna have 2 characters splitting that damage. So orb change, and then barrier, orb change, and then another barrier with Albus. Give us the extra points. We got 5 stacks of barrier on Shuna, 4 on Redis, 7 on Maribel. We have a lot of barrier right now, and it's all gonna go away, especially if we get countered. So let's see what happens here. Alright, and we get an ult, and instant damage, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and now we're back down to 1, 2, and 3. We had over 10 stacks of barrier right there, and now we're down to 6. Congratulations. She wiped everything off it. Alright, well that's a good hand. We could take Shuna out, and we can just bring Momiji in, and that will, I think this will be the last turn that she's sealed, and it will give us a full hand of blues and an ult, which we can just send. So this is doing double duty. So let's just do a random barrier stack with Redis, more Pierce power. No, it's not going to Shuna in the back. Oh well. Go ahead and send this. We got a lot of points, a lot of protection gauge. This will give us the permanent weakness strike on to Shuna since she's Festive Memories. I think we do that twice here. But now turn 6 is the last like scary turn. There goes Redis barrier. And there goes Momiji's barrier. So now we have 3 stacks. So plus whatever Shuna has. So this is why it's difficult to maintain 10 barriers. This is the turn before you're supposed to nuke, traditionally, on turn 8. And we are nowhere close to being ready. Like, absolutely nowhere close. So, orb change. Alright, cool. Albus, there's a barrier. 5, 2, and 2. And let's go ahead and send this, make some points back. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And how much gets deleted here? 1, 2, and 3. Broke Momiji's barrier, not a big deal. We have 6 stacks now, but remember, we have to have everyone with a barrier up front. Which thankfully, when we get to the nuke turn, Albus can do that for us. But now, we need to bring Shuna in, because we still need an EX ult for her. Because I don't know if you know this, but we don't really get a lot of ult gauge here. Oh, man. Alright, this should get her EX ult, though. And here's 2 more, well, technically 6 more barrier stacks. Since it's covering 3 different people. And then we'll bring Rimuru in, just because I just want to retain that high barrier number on Maribel and not have her get hit. Alright, another stupid counter. Thank you very much for that. Okay, but now we have the EX ult. And another counter. Oh my god. Okay, so... one excellent hand right here. No blues. We have an EX ult, which means we can use the synergy buff, and we can send her away finally. Like, we're ready. Not really, because it's turn 9, and we don't have the points, and we can't do what we want. Alright, there's the Maribel ult. That's another 25% permanent weakness strike, and another counterattack. Alright, instant damage. Broke everything. Alright. Maribel's down to 5 stacks now. So she can cover half of what we need to get. We just now need to get up to 150 skill points. So here, orb change. Boom, boom. Another random stack of bear. Again, no pierce power for Shuna, but there's nothing really we can do about that. Albus, more barrier. So now we got 6, 10, 11 stacks here. So, depending on what next turn looks like, we could make this work. Unless they all get deleted. And then that's a problem. Okay, trainee, single target ult. Alright, 1, 2, 3, 4. So now we're back down to 8 barriers. 150 points though. Like, we can make it work now. Like, this is the turn. So we're gonna do this. So Rimuru will come in for Ritas. We don't need her ult. And then we'll use his buff. His magic buff, which will give us 150 skill points on top of the 60 that we're going to have remaining. Now we have 210. Now we bring Shuna in. She already has a synergy buff, she has the EX ult. So now we can use Momiji. That'll give us the ult resistance down 140% this time, because we've been here for 11 goddamn turns. And then we're not going to use Maribel, because we don't have enough points for that. So we'll do this, we'll use Albus. This will get us the full stack. So 4, plus 7, plus 1... that is over 10 stacks right there. Now we can use the full power Momiji buff. 150% weakness strike. So we have a barrier stone. Okay, cool. 330% ult. 120% EX ult damage. Shuna herself has 10% pierce power, 50% weakness strike from the ults, and then synergy power, and then the weakness strike 150%. And then trainee has 50% weakness resistance down from the orb changes from Ritas, and then 140 ult down. And then we'll actually turn the ult on. And I think we'll send the 2 Shuna orbs just to see how much damage they do here. And we can't do anything else. So 55k. I mean, sure, it's okay. It's not great for a stacking team. But it's the best we can do right now. So minus the Rimuru crit, we do 5.1 million. Which is really actually kind of tragic. I hit the wrong button. As I was saying, it's kind of tragic in this day and age of December of 2024, where the team is doing 5 million damage on a single target nuke after 11 turns. But obviously the team is not complete yet. This is not its full build. I don't think it will be its full build. And we're really going to bank on that Fire Violet unit coming in to replace this Rimuru and make this team actually work together. Because right now, it's a hot mess. I don't enjoy running this team. I don't know if I enjoy this team less than Divine General, or which one I dislike more, honestly. I don't know, but that's gonna do it for the initial showcase for Maribel. She can be a good support, and I think I will give her her own separate video as a support character on other teams, because she can function there. It's just that in order for her to actually like work, she needs 3 Festive Memories units, which is these 3 characters. So it's going to be a really, really weird, wonky team, but we will give her a shot as a generic support unit, because her EX ult damage is generic, as long as you have an EX ult. Momiji is generic, because it's ult resistance down, and guaranteed pierce. Like, that's fine. They're orb changers. Okay, cool. That is what makes a pretty decent support character. It's just that Maribel's whole gimmick thing kind of is a little bit too restricted. So, unfortunate. But let me know what you guys think about this Maribel in the comments below. But that's it from me. Take it easy, guys, and I'll see you all later.